Now we start the oiling. For this we need a cleaning stick with a hole in it just like this one, some cloth that doesn't shred on its border, I prefer cotton, oil, cotton swabs, and kitchen paper. So the borders of the cloth shouldn't shred because we don't want little threads left behind in our recorders. This one is okay. Of course, there are also cloths that have nicely finished borders, which is even safer. But they're harder to find nowadays, especially if you want something smaller. Even this cloth is too big for soprano and even alto recorders. That's why I'm going to cut off a smaller part. Try to cut as cleanly as possible so there are no loose threads. We're taking the corner and we pass it through the hole. Through and over. This way it won't fall off so easily. It's also how I dry my recorders with a clean cloth after playing. As for the oil, you can use different types. Most common are linseed or sweet almond oil. Very important that it's cold pressed oil. You cover the cloth with oil. Now, if we look at the head joint, we don't want to go where the block is because we don't want any oil there. So we determine until which point we can go in with the oiled cloth. I'm going to measure this and place my thumb under it. As you can see, now it works as a stop. You see? Now I can turn it around and make sure all inner surface gets enough oil. I can actually check through the labium as well to see if it doesn't come up too much. Always leaving my thumb in place. The middle joint can be oiled entirely on the inside. You will want to hold the end of the cloth so it won't get stuck. And we can have a look on the inside, and this is how you can check if it's all shiny. If you see places that are matte instead of shiny, you know you haven't covered that spot with oil yet. I'm going to add some more oil. I want to be very generous with the oil. There you go. And finally, the foot joint. That looks nice and shiny inside. I leave them to soak up the oil for some time, between half an hour and a couple of hours. Important though, some recorders are impregnated on the inside and then you don't need to oil them. Just check the inside, and if you're not sure, first try out a small surface with oil and see if it actually takes it in. Now we're going to oil the details like the labium, finger holes and ledges with the cotton swabs again. Be sure to clean your oily hands with a paper or even wash them, because you might touch other cotton swabs that you'll be using on the block at some time. We'll start by the labium. Be very careful that you don't ever go up too far because you'll stain the block with oil. Just here. With a lot of delicacy. Some people use a brush for this, which is also fine. For the labium, it helps to pinch the cotton so you can reach the corners. With a lot of care, you can also oil the details just above the labium. Another part you can use the oily cotton swabs on is this one. It's also possible to use a cloth, but this is a little more precise, especially close to the entrance of the windway. Here you will want to be very careful. And now we're going to oil the finger holes. Sometimes they're dirty or even have mold, so you'll want to check that. This one has a little bit of what seems to be mold. It can be an idea to start off with a dry cotton swab. After oiling the finger holes, we can pass by them again with a dry cotton swab. This can also be done later. Don't forget the thumb hole. I don't normally oil the rim just below the tab, but if it's very dry or dirty, it's good to do as well. And also the rim above. This one is actually dirty. By cleaning it, the joints will close off better. Don't forget the holes of the foot joint. The rim on the inside can also use some oil, just like the one inside of the head joint, as long as they're not varnished or impregnated. Remember, if a surface is shiny, then probably it's varnished. If it's half matted, then probably it's impregnated, but then you will have to try that out. Now we're going to use the cloth to oil the outside, only if the recorder isn't varnished or impregnated. So remember that if it's a shiny surface, probably it's varnished or impregnated. This cloth is still very oily. You just rub the outside and cover the recorder in oil. Be careful up there. You should also do the rim, but then put it on top of a cloth. Stay. It's a bit scary to place them like this. There you go. This is an example of a varnished recorder. As you can see, it's shiny. So I just oiled the top, which isn't varnished. Now we need to take away the excessive oil. There are two options, the cotton cloth or the kitchen paper. I do think the paper breaks quickly, but the cotton cloth absorbs less. I'm going to start with the cloth, and later on we can always do a second round with the paper. Make sure that when the cloth becomes too oily, you turn it around or replace it. We take away the excessive oil after letting the recorders dry for some while, between half an hour and a couple of hours. We could do the trick of the thumb as a stop again. Turn it around. So you see, some oil is actually coming off. Try to check with a dry finger if the inside is not too oily. Now we're going to pass over it again with the kitchen paper. It breaks more easily though. With care, at some point the paper will break. But for now it holds. After a while, we're going to dry the outside of the recorders with a dry cloth, taking away the excessive oil. If it's too oily or it's varnished or impregnated and got stained with oil, I'd rather use kitchen paper to take away the oil. Always make sure not to touch the labium, especially with paper, because it can cut. Now we take away the excessive oil from the delicate and small parts. Be extremely careful here. Make sure no oil stays here. That's why I do the pinching trick, which makes sure the oil gets into the tiniest corners. Maybe there are some other details on your recorder too. And then we do the same with the finger holes, because some oil could have been left behind. Don't forget the foot joint. If it's a small recorder, you might have to use the cotton swab to reach the inside here, but in this case that's not necessary. And we're done! Now we've come to the end of this video on oiling the recorder. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and follow me here on YouTube. I've also made several videos on solving specific problems, so you might want to check them out. And if you haven't seen my previous video on taking care of the block, go and take a look. All links are in the description. Thanks for watching and see you soon!